It's about the brutal murder of a young woman in South Korea in 2012. On April 1, around 10:32 p.m., a company employee named Kwok was suddenly attacked and dragged into her assailant's house near Jadong Elementary School in Paldal-gu, Suwon. She was held captive, sexually assaulted, and ultimately murdered in a very violent way. The perpetrator, Woo Won-chun, a Korean Chinese, was caught shortly after the crime. Following the incident, the image of the Korean Chinese community worsened even further. This incident had a significant impact on popular culture, becoming a turning point where most Korean Chinese were depicted in a negative light. Due to the police's inadequate initial response, there was a loss of trust in the police force. The victim, Kwok, who had a chance to survive, died, and even after 10 years, the goal of independent investigation rights has not been achieved. This resulted in Police Commissioner Cho Yun-oh taking responsibility and resigning just 9 days after the incident occurred. CCTV footage showed the culprit, Woo Won-chun, attacking Kwok suddenly from behind while she was walking, dragging her into his house. It was revealed that Woo had offered Kwok money for sexual services, but when she refused, he attacked her with a spanner, rendering her unconscious, and then strangled her to death. Kwok had called 112 to report the incident while it was happening. But the police failed to locate the perpetrator, despite her giving them information on his whereabouts. The police only searched in the area where his mobile phone was found. And they did not use sirens or conduct door-to-door searches, which may have disturbed residents' sleep. The incident was brutal and shocking. However, the victim was brutally murdered in the end. According to the perpetrator, the victim was still alive for 6 hours after the phone call ended. Even if the police say she died at 1 a.m., she was alive for at least 3 hours. The autopsy revealed that she had eaten omelette before she died. The National Forensic Service stated, when under severe stress, digestion can also slow down, indicating that there was a possibility that she was still alive for some time. The perpetrator was dismantling the victim's body when he was arrested, and there was even a knife sharpening stone next to him. There are also reports that he would sharpen his knife if it became dull while dismembering the body. Isn't this absolutely gruesome and terrifying? The perpetrator dismembered the body into 280 pieces and put them in 17 vinyl bags. Usually, 2 to 3 doctors perform the autopsy for a murder case, but 14 people were assigned to this case due to the extent of damage to the body. A sexual assault investigation was necessary, but the damage was so severe that the analysis was impossible. Therefore, they had to rely on the perpetrator's statement. Geer said, there were around 20 chunks of meat per bag, and a total of about 280 chunks of meat were found, according to a government official. An anonymous emergency responder who witnessed the scene said, they scraped off the flesh as much as possible. So the bones were exposed. Due to the aftermath of this incident, they couldn't even eat properly for 2 days. Seeing how shocked people were after experiencing such a nightmarish situation, it's easy to imagine how gruesome the incident was. It's tough to understand how the perpetrator was able to eat well in jail after the crime. Although he is suspected of being a psychopath, a profiler who interviewed him doesn't seem to think so. However, kidnapping a passerby and committing dismemberment murder is not an accidental crime. The police are investigating unresolved cases in the area during his stay. However, due to some false rumors, people are spreading lies that the victim was at fault for this incident. Nevertheless, considering the heinous nature of the crime, it's natural to focus on investigating the case. And that's why the perpetrator has become the prime suspect for unresolved issues. However, bone fragments were found in the ashes of his house fire at the end of April. The bones were collected by the police, and orthopedic specialists and other experts as likely human bones identified the larger fragments. The smaller portions were unclear and investigated by the National Forensic Service after being collected by the police. The results of the examination showed that they were animal bones and were announced as such. Some media outlets have revealed the perpetrator's identity, and a photo of the perpetrator has been released on the Dong-A-Ilbo website. Although it has not been reported as a news article, it was linked to the Dong-A blog's main page. The perpetrator's face was already visible during the on-site verification, and Chosun Ilbo published an article that revealed the perpetrator's whole face. JTBC also revealed the perpetrator's identity on April 10. Finally, on June 15, 2012, the first trial court sentenced the perpetrator to death. Acknowledging the allegation of providing human flesh, 10 years of public disclosure of personal information, and 30 years of GPS tracking. The perpetrator appealed the decision, and on October 18, 2012, the appellate court commuted the sentence to life imprisonment. The victim's family members were shocked and devastated by the decision, as they had expected the death penalty to be imposed. The commutation was because the allegation of providing human flesh, which was the main reason for the death penalty, was not proven due to insufficient evidence. The appellate court stated that although the perpetrator dismembered the victim's body into hundreds of pieces, it cannot be concluded that the purpose was to provide human flesh, and thus, the allegation was not acknowledged. Instead, the perpetrator was convicted of common crimes such as sexual assault, murder, and corpse mutilation, and a life sentence was deemed appropriate. The public was outraged by the lenient sentence. During the national audit held the day after the verdict, both the ruling and opposition parties strongly criticized the judge for being too lenient. In January 2013, the sentence was confirmed as life imprisonment. The rejection of the allegation of providing human flesh was cited as the main reason for the commutation in the appellate court. On the day of the accident, the victim was walking home, a journey of over 1 kilometer. As it was a holiday, the local bus service had ended early, and to save even the $2 taxi fare, she decided to walk home. Her father was a day laborer, and her mother worked in a restaurant, so her family struggled financially. She attended an unemployment-focused high school and worked as a clerk at a car parts company for 2 years after graduation. This caused her to start her university education later in life, and she ultimately attended a specialized college in Gunsan with the money she earned through part-time work. Despite graduating alone, she struggled to find a job due to discrimination against vocational colleges. She eventually gave up on her dream after 3 years of balancing part-time work and studying for civil service exams, as the burden of tuition and study expenses became too great. Ms. Kwok left her hometown of Gunsan and moved to Suwon, where her older sister lived, 8 months before the accident. 2 months before the incident, she worked at a mobile phone subcontractor parts factory in Osan, Gyeonggi Province. She worked on Sundays and even worked overtime until late at night, despite being a temporary employee and earning small per month. Despite these hardships, she saved most of her salary to support her family's living expenses and to provide pocket money for her nephew, whom she loved more than her own life. Living with her nephew, she was warm and kind, so much so that he favored her over his mother. It was truly tragic that such a kind-hearted person became a victim of such a cruel and brutal crime, and people could not help but feel deep sorrow for her and her family. The victim's family is suffering, unable to sleep properly without sleeping pills, and experiencing physical pain as if their blood is flowing backward. They mentioned this in an interview. This incident was an extremely heinous and shocking crime that evoked deep sympathy from many people. The family is going through immense pain as a result of this tragedy. And this incident has served as a reminder of the need for further discussions on crime prevention and victim protection in our society. We must continue to identify and address the issues we have been neglecting and offer our deepest condolences to the family of Ms. Kwok.